This show is powered by BL3P, the Lightning-enabled European Bitcoin exchange.
Connect the world.
Henrik, Torq, New York.
Pho is the quintessential Vietnamese dish, the word pho referring to the type of noodle used in the recipe. Flat rice noodles dance around with medium rare slivers of beef or boiled chicken in a hearty beef stock. Can we wake you up in the middle of the night for a bowl of pho?
Sounds lovely.
If you could turn back time, would you make sure you remain completely anonymous online?
No.
Do you own a pet?
No.
Is node management still too stressful?
No.
Did you attend the Oslo Freedom Forum in June?
Yes.
Did you buy a physical good with Bitcoin last week?
Yes.
Within 10 years, the Lightning Network will be used by billions of people.
Definitely yes.
Splicing is my favorite recently added feature to Lightning.
Yes.
Do we see you at Bitcoin Amsterdam this October?
No.
Are you Satoshi Nakamoto?
No.
Welcome to the Connect the World weekly podcast. I'm Edward.
And I'm Steph. We are ready to take you with us into the beautiful world of the Lightning Network.
Enjoy the ride. This is episode 85 of Connect the World. And this show is made possible by BL3P, our friends from the Bitcoin European Bitcoin Exchange, hosted physically in the Netherlands, but of course for whole Europe and the world accessible. Thank you guys for helping us with our mission. And if you also want to help out, then check our Telegram group to subscribe there and or join and ask us anything. And of course, follow us on Twitter and YouTube. And of course, a donation is always welcome.
Conecta el mundo.
It's Henrik again.
Yeah,
Welcome,
Henrik. It's been some time,
Thank
couple
you
of
for
months, I
having me.
guess. Great to have you on the show again.
Yeah, it was 2 months ago, right?
Yeah, it was in April, I think. So 4 months. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah,
To me,
Henrik
it feels like 2 years ago. Like time is
yeah,
moving at
because
the
there's so
same
much,
speed.
there's so many things
in the
going
lightning
on.
space and also in
Yeah.
a bear market. I think years are generations, really.
Yeah, definitely. Feel years older as well.
Oh man, yeah, cut the crap. I mean, I have 2 little kids, man. I feel decades older. no, just
That
kidding.
helps
Hey,
also.
but, the last time we spoke to you, I think you were at home or something or in an office, and now the scenery, man. Where are you? I mean, it's lovely. Yeah, it's a bit blurred, but we saw your background is amazing.
Yeah, New York. It's a Chrysler
Awesome.
building by there.
Yeah, that's
So
great.
you're at what floor are you?
64th.
So
64th floor, and you're not afraid of heights.
Apparently not. Seems safe here.
It's so crazy, man. I mean, I was at the Eiffel Tower in Paris once, and I mean, yeah, it's different than a big skyscraper, obviously. So it's just with, what was it, a fence or it looked like it wasn't that safe, but it was safe, obviously. But man, I had goosebumps, and I was so afraid of falling down. And you can't fall down, obviously. I mean, it's stupid to think you can fall down from the Eiffel Tower, but I was so afraid of that height.
last
And
week
now
they
you're at
jumped
64.
from the Eiffel Tower again.
Yeah, the parachute, right?
Yeah. And I
Wow,
remember
That's nuts.
we talked with Jose Lemus, Steph. He was also from Ibex. He was also in a tall building.
He was in
amazing, huh?
Miami, but it wasn't the 64th
No.
floor. I mean, it was like the 21st floor or something. Great
Yeah, I
number,
guess.
obviously.
Still.
But
Far enough.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, man.
I'm 6
Yeah,
high.
nice.
So,
Real nice scenery, man. I think no one of our guests can compete with this scenery. To be honest.
and with
It is pretty
Bitcoin,
insane. Yeah.
the sky isn't the limit, right? So.
Hey, you did attend the Oslo Freedom Forum in June. How was it? Because there are some similarities to the Bitcoin conferences, obviously, because it's about privacy and human rights and all. So, but can you tell us from your point of view? Did you enjoy the conference?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the stuff discussed there in the talks are just way more important than most Bitcoin conferences in a way, right? You see this sort of here and now, what's happening in the world. But also the last day of the conference is there's a stage dedicated to Bitcoin. A lot of stories how Bitcoin has helped today and what they're using it for, and a lot of examples. So it's I would say it's one of the best conferences, and everybody should visit it at least once.
Perfect. And I mean, what was the opinion from the people that didn't came there for Bitcoin? I mean, were there some orange pill moments, or did you spoke to people that weren't a Bitcoiner and left the conference as a Bitcoiner, or do you have some examples from that?
I was too busy speaking with Bitcoiners, sadly. I was also coming right from Prague, the conference there, and I was just in sort of the Bitcoin space mindset, I guess. But I think there were a lot of people who learned a lot from the different sessions.
Yeah, perfect. So, but you're not coming to Bitcoin Amsterdam, so that's a pity, man.
Yeah, it's more like a maybe.
Okay.
So I'm going to TabConf, and then this is going to be quite sort of close to that. So I'm a bit unsure.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's also a great conference. But we're hosting there at Bitcoin Amsterdam 2 nights in a row. A meetup, and the first one is about Nostr. It's the night before the conference, and then on the 12th we have another meetup there. So if you can manage, then of course you're welcome. Everybody's welcome, of course.
Great.
It's held at one of the best barbecue places in Amsterdam, and it's a walking distance from the venue where the conference is held. So if you're not convinced by now, I booked
my ticket after this.
And if they change the dates, then TabConf would be also great to able to manage them both, of course. It's going to be interesting.
Looking forward to TabConf, and also like if I can make it, I might make some space just to head to Amsterdam as well.
You're most welcome there. So
Well, for the audience, maybe it's good to mention, Edward. It's good that you mentioned the meetups. You can go to meetup.com, and I think it's /Connect the World, right? That's our meetup page, right?
I think it's right. Yeah.
If you are attending the conference, we would really love to see you guys at the meetup. So if you don't have it in your agenda already, then look it up at meetup.com /Connect the World. Is it correct, Edward? Yeah.
It's,
okay.
It's
just
correct.
verifying.
Yeah, it is.
And put it in the agenda.
Yeah, we have a page there. We have more than 180 people up there and counting up. So everybody.
Last time I think there were 300 plus people.
Amazing. Everybody was there, but it's great to be able to talk with your peers about Lightning and about Nostr and all the things that are going on, and about the whole day of the conference, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and connected. There's so many different developers and Bitcoiners and building in the space around the world, and these conferences is an opportunity to actually meet people in person. I think we have gotten so used to these remote meetings that it's almost like, meeting people in person is sort of this extraordinary event.
Yeah. But I mean, especially people from around the globe, right? I mean, now, for instance, if you're attending and we can have a beer, and then it would be also nice to see each other in person. And that's I think it's also for all the other guests we have from around the globe. We have people from really every time zone. So it's hard to meet each other in person. And I think that those conferences are a very good opportunity to do so.
So we have a maybe from you, Henrik. So it would be great.
We have a maybe.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
selling me over here more and more.
I think we just need to send the menu of the Bry, the barbecue place.
Let's do that afterwards. Yeah.
Close the deal.
Node management still, as I asked you, is still node management still too stressful? And you said no. But I saw a tweet of you, I think it was a couple of months ago, and then you said, well, node management is still too stressful. And what changed in between?
Perhaps a solution.
Yeah, Torq 0.1, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
well,
I guess so.
But yeah, I mean, it's getting easier and easier, and it depends on what kind of operation you're running. I mean, routing nodes of various sizes. And also depends on sort of your proficiency in different Lightning concepts and operating nodes. That being said, with Torq, we're working more towards large operations, large companies operating multiple nodes for usage like payment processing or exchanges and such things. And for those, it's a whole set of different challenges that maybe the regular plebs, I would say, like routing node operators don't see yet. So, for example, managing multiple nodes in a system.
Yeah. So you guys, so Torq is the new thing, right? Because that's we also spoke to you about Allen Capital, but it will be Torq in the near future.
Yeah, so we're rebranding to Torq, and that's essentially a few reasons. One is that Torq has always been the tool, and we're just focusing on Torq, so it made sense not to have that distinction anymore. And secondly, I've gotten a question too many times, like, what companies are you investing in? And like, no, we're not a
but I can imagine
company.
that. I can imagine that. Allen Capital. Well, it has a little bit of a VC.
It's in the name.
Yeah. Exactly. And the URL as well, ln.capital, is like all VCs have the .capital domain, right?
Okay, man. Well, let's talk about Torq then. It's a nice name, right? Torq. It's a power name. Yeah. So
exactly.
Let's talk about Torq, and it has to be in the 21 minutes, Henrik, as you know. So if you are ready, we would really love to enter the apartment.
世界をつな
So
ぐ
lots has happened since last time we talked. We've talked to more and more companies, and we see the need for not only node management, but we're building out a more holistic set of tools, and we're actually moving away from the term node management, because node management is just one part of this. It's just first of all, people associated with Ride the Lightning and ThunderUp, and that's a different set of tools. Like it's opening channels and closing channels and changing fees, etc., manually, and that's a small part of Torq. But we call that more like basic node management. And then we have several other modules like the automation, and we have sort of insights and analytics, and we're building out more and more of these modules. So the point is essentially that we're moving towards the concept of Lightning resource planning, where we're helping companies to take more and more work off their hands that is related to building these basic standard things that it doesn't make sense for each of these companies to build individually constantly.
Cool. And Torq is aiming to be a user-friendly Lightning node management tool. In an earlier FCTW episode, Connect the World episode, you mentioned more about the development and motivation behind the development of Torq. Can you explain again in a short way what the Torq is?
Yeah, so Torq is a user-friendly node management tool, but that's just one part of it. You can say that as this industry progresses, there will be more and more people who are non-technical. It doesn't mean that the entire use of Torq is going to be something that no developer is going to be involved in. This is a system that is in increasing degree meant to be run not just on a server, which people do today, but also part of a Kubernetes cluster. So it spins up with their entire system of nodes and all that, and people connect it. We're also building out like a mid-layer API for people. So there is certain parts of it that is meant for developers. But a lot of these functions that is going to be done is essentially through their financial decisions, their business decisions. So people operating in different divisions of a company, like finance or accounting, different functions there need to interact and see certain data and have access to certain data. It's not just going to be us who love Lightning interacting with this. It needs to be accessible to other people as well.
Yeah. And Torq then ensures that capital isn't standing still and automatically adjusting channel fees and rebalance while you sleep. Do you think that in the future this will become the only logical way to manage Lightning nodes, that it just isn't necessary to do it manually?
So I think that's the use case which we're thinking about now, especially from sort of the consumer direction, where you want all this to be automated, or you're running a routing node to make money and you want as much as possible there to be automated. And that's, of course, an important part. But imagine if you're a large company, if you have a large public node, then one of the main challenges is closing channels that aren't useful, or liquidity is stuck on your side of the channel, right? But you also want different types of warnings. You want custom messages appearing or being sent to you in cases where, quite sort of specific setups. So it is a bit different case where if you are a LSP provider or you are a payment processor, you have different concerns. You don't need a solution that takes care of absolutely everything for you, because, well, if that exists, then we have some AI, all-knowing AI doing everything for you, right? So it's more about running a large operation, while consumers, and I think this is where most of the Lightning industry is working towards making Lightning accessible for everyone, or for normal businesses. What we're doing is we're helping Lightning companies or companies wanting to run nodes themselves for business purposes set up a Lightning operation without having to build everything from scratch.
Yeah, and amongst the list of other things, the newest release of Torq is version 1.0, if I'm well. Implemented the open LSP spec for allowing users to buy channels from different LSPs. So it's ideal when a channel is depleted. Can you explain how this works?
Yeah, sure. So we're about to release 1.1 with the second version of the spec. So the first one implemented a simple HTTP version of it. The second will have the full spec of it. And it will include the ability for you to sell channels. So if you're running a larger node, you can actually advertise that you're selling channel and become an LSP using the LSP spec instantly. And then also use the automation system we have, essentially a decision engine, to set up the rules for how much it costs. So classic example is if you have a set of customers that perhaps because they are part of your self-custodial wallet setup, then you can give those free channels while you sell channels to external parties. You can, of course, create much more advanced example, like charging less for large channels than smaller channels, or vice versa.
Yeah. And you also added HTLC firewalls for forced enclosure prevention. Settling on-chain, of course, can be very expensive. How are you guys tackling the problem with the new function?
So this is part of the extension of the automation system we have. So there's two parts of it. One is the increased HTLC, or like new HTLC features. The other is logging. So right now, just to cover logging first, all events, every time a workflow is triggered, we create a log in the background, and you can now inspect that visually, and you can see the entire decision tree of that sort of automation workflow, and see exactly which channels were filtered, what happened, which changes were applied. So this is really important for several reasons. One is that for HTLC events, you want to see that the logic works as you expect, because the changes and the effects that happen are quite sort of subtle. The second thing is if you have an automation flow that closes all channels by accident, that's very, very bad. So you want to check when you make this automation flows that you don't do stuff like that. Circling back to the HTLC question. So it's part of the workflow where you set the data source to be HTLC events and data. And you can set up filters based on that. So either the amount of the HTLC or frequency, or you can set up what channel the HTLC comes in from or out to. So essentially, when you're forwarding payments, you have a very high degree of control for what type of behavior you accept, and with that, you can limit the danger of somebody trying to flood your channels with activity. And you can also limit the amount of outstanding pending HTLC forwards. So the impact of that is in times where maybe there's we saw that a bit when the fee on-chain increased. There were an effect, I'm not sure why, where we saw an increase in force closes. And if you have a channel with a lot of pending HTLC and a very high on-chain fee, SAT per rebyte fee, then the force closes gets very, very expensive because you have to then you have to do multiple on-chain transactions essentially. So the impact of that is much, much higher.
And another new feature is an easy interface to move funds between nodes, ideal when running multiple Lightning nodes. I can recollect talking with Alex Bosworth in an earlier episode about creating some kind of tunnel between channels for two of your own nodes, but perhaps it works differently. So can you elaborate how it works in the newest version of Torq? Yeah,
so this is something we haven't added to the automation yet, but you have a manual feature where you can say, I have a channel between two of my nodes, and very common setup is that you have some nodes with public channels. Let's say you're a payment processor or you're an exchange. So you have one public node that has a lot of inbound capacity. So that node is mainly used to receive payments. And then once, when you send, you very often have a smaller node that is sort of unannounced with a lot of private channels, and this one is used to send. Well, that means that the amount of money often ends up on your side of sort of one node and not the other. So you can actually move this function use this function to very quickly move funds either on chain or off chain to the other side, to the other node. So yeah, there's multiple ways to use this feature, but it's essentially just a very quick way to do it with a smooth interface to move money back and forth. Cool. But of course, with automation, this is even easier.
Yeah.
Everything will be automated.
Indeed. And
I mean, the edge cases is something you need to react to, but everything that's something that happens very often you want to automate. And it is completely possible to build sort of small automation scripts for all of this. But if you're a company, you don't really want to spend time on that. And you want to build products that your customers just love, right?
Yeah,
and
sure.
you need to you want to spend all your power on that instead of building small automation stuff that you can use Torq for.
Yeah, that's right. And it's now also possible to subscribe to a paid version of Torq. What are the main benefits of the subscription?
So we have essentially set a limit. So if you're a smaller-ish node, so most people won't have to pay. But we have set a limit that if you're either a large routing node or you are a business operating, which typically has multiple nodes, and mostly just businesses have multiple nodes and operate multiple nodes actively, then you need to pay. So there we have sort of different pricing packages. But yeah, we got to make some money so we can build Torq.
Sure.
Essentially.
Yeah. And what are some other new features? We've talked about a couple of features in version 1.0 or 1.1 already. Are there some other new features worth mentioning that are implemented in this newest version of Torq?
I mean, the automation logging is something we spent a long time building in this release, and it's very, very important. I think we're the first solution where you can really see what's happening in any given automation. So that's something I want to, pull extra attention to. We also have the ability in this version to see exactly which channels belong to which nodes, for example. So you can see it very easily instead of looking up the name of the different node that channels belong to. You can see that with a colored bar on each of the channels, for example. So there's a lot of small changes around that, that improve that. So yeah, HTLC interception, automation logging, and more automation features were some of the heaviest thing to build into this release.
And what other future features are you working on for the future, and especially for businesses or big businesses with multiple nodes? Are there any things that you have on a wish list or something?
Yes, not going to go too deeply into some of these things.
Of course.
It's a bit of a roadmap, but
we're entering secret territory, Edward.
Yeah, exactly. We're focusing on what these larger companies and startups actually need as well. We're there to help this along. So if anybody runs a company and wants to talk to us, we're happy to hop on a call and figure out what do you guys want.
Yeah.
Cool. And let's talk about scaling Lightning also, because not so long ago you started an initiative scaling Lightning. What led you? What is the initiative for at first, and what led you to start this initiative?
Yeah, so I started looking at to refactor our internal testing tools, and I figured out that there's a lot of different companies who's built very similar solutions to what we had originally as well in Torq. And it doesn't make sense, again, for each company in the world to build that testing tool. And it is sort of complicated in a way to get started, especially with reliable end-to-end tests. So the project started there, but it evolved a bit into becoming a tool that the goal is to create a tool that is sort of in the industry agreed upon, that we spend resources together on to develop something that can be used by researchers to do tests on the network, for example, testing payment congestion. And then you can also use it to test cross implementation support, so CLN and LND support. That is something that there has from time to time been numerous bugs related to that, because it has been a bit tricky to test this. Also new, like LND, for example, is interested in seeing increased testing. And CLN, like all the different implementations are interested in this. And then lastly, we have two more, which is when a company develops Lightning applications, they need to have a dev environment that has some nodes that they can interact with. Yeah. And last thing is end-to-end tests for setting that up and writing test scenarios that you can run over and over again. So this is essentially, sounds like it covers a lot and sounds like it's trying to cover all problems out there. And sort of, yeah, but it does that in a way where we've broken everything into small components. So to be a bit technical, it's essentially uses a simple way to spin up a Kubernetes instance, either locally or in a cloud. And it runs that in the same way, where you can have multiple nodes, any set of nodes you want, just list them up. And then you have a very standard interface to communicate with them very simply, that you can do either via the terminal or through like a library you install, like an SDK almost. And all of this is sort of exported to you in a very, very simple way. And since it is built up the way it is with Kubernetes and these sort of configurations, you can very easily switch out every different components of this and use very standard parts. So it can be extended very easily, it can be customized very easily, and you can test the latest LND, CLN, LDK setup you want. All these different things without it sort of becoming this huge job of building out or extending something. It's just very, very easy small components.
Yeah, for listeners who don't know what Kubernetes is, it's an open source container orchestration system for automating software deployment. So that is really the heart of how it works, right? To be able to pull up a test environment and to have it very quickly put up multiple nodes for testing. Because Polar, exactly. I know Polar because we talked about it earlier a little bit, is also a great playground to learn about Lightning networks. But what are the key differences? Because they are huge, I think, between scaling Lightning and Polar.
Yeah, so I think Polar uses Docker Compose or something in the background. Yeah. Polar is a bit more rigid, and it's built around a interface. So I think it uses TypeScript a lot to sort of compose these different setups and new nodes, etc. And the we wanted something that's much easier to spin up and kill, and of course something you can use as part of your end-to-end test, which is not really possible with Polar. And we looked at repurposing or adding to Polar or doing something there, forking it. And we figured out that essentially what people have been doing with these custom setups for testing and with Polar is that they try to replicate the ability to spin up different configurations of nodes. And this is something Kubernetes is built for. Yeah. So instead of fighting with and sort of wrangling all this setup manual, we just use Kubernetes, especially now that you can run Kubernetes locally very easily. So for example, Docker Desktop just has a checkbox and it starts Kubernetes in the background. You can just, like we have on the GitHub, we have commands for just running through to set it up. And when you start a network, it's just one command, like apply, Helm file apply, easy. Right? Yeah, exactly. So this enables a way of working both as a developer and end-to-end test that is much more streamlined. You don't have any manual sort of setup anymore, and you can just kill the entire setup and reboot it the exact same way every time.
And is this environment also able to gather new users to learn more about the Lightning Network, or?
Yeah, so of course there's a bit higher sort of threshold, but if you are a developer, then this is easy to get running. And I think it's easier to interact with when you have multiple nodes than maybe other setups. Of course, Polar is the ultimate super simple way where you can see what's happening visually, and you can do basically most commands visually by clicking through the UI, like basic commands, I mean, like opening channels and payments, etc. So that's probably the best way to just start to learn the basics. But yeah, this is sort of the next step when you really want to build something. That's the main thing.
Yeah. And you've set some project milestones. Can you take us through it and shine a light on the most important ones and when and what we can expect in the future?
Yeah. So, if I remember everything correctly now, it's a bit of time since I wrote this.
Because scaling Lightning is for every implementation, right, of Lightning. So Eclair, L&D, Core Lightning, it's very ambitious.
Yeah. So again, the way we do this is keeping everything on its own separate thing and defining very simple standard interface, but still leaving most of the sort of heavy interaction up to you. So you can import connection details, but you have ultimate control. But for the milestones, so Max Edwards has been working on this for some time now. I've done a bit of contributions, mostly on talking about the infrastructure, like the architecture, but he's done the bulk of the work so far. And he the way we chose to set it up is that we wanted to first get a way to start up all these nodes. So that's the first milestone, using Kubernetes to spin it up. Next one is having this sort of unified client that works in the same way across all implementations. And again, this is possible because it's super, super simple. We have the basic commands. And then the next step is having that library that you can either interact with through terminal or in your own software. And that should be implemented in like every major language. So JavaScript, Go is the first one, Rust is popular, and so on. And then after that, once we have those pieces, the next goal is to create a random generator. And there has been some development there. So we want to enable the ability to create a random set of behavior very easily that you can spin up as part of your dev environment, for example. But also enable it to have different personas, as we call it. So essentially, you want one that behaves like Bitfinex, massive amount of channels, or one that behaves as a small routing node, and such and so on.
I hear the TikTok, so we have we only have one question left. So, what do you need at this time to grow scaling Lightning?
So Max can't work for free forever. He needs a bit of help. He needs basically companies to pitch in. Individual developers, he needs grants, and he needs bit of money to work on this open source development. Somebody pays the price, right? Either it's the developer suffering, or it's somebody helping out.
And then he can have...
Is he already on Geyser.fund, for instance, or other funding platforms?
Sorry, I couldn't hear. There was a gong going off.
There was a really hard code. Is the project already on Geyser or other crowdfunding platforms?
Actually, that's a very good point. We'll get it up on Geyser today.
Of course, that's a no-brainer, right? Every project starts
happy to plant
there.
the seed.
Yeah. No, great work you're doing all there. Thanks for your answers. And of course, we had a lot more questions, but these two topics, Torq, all the things you're working on, and with Scaling Lightning, it's really amazing. So thanks again.
It's good.
Thanks.
Conectado Lumea.
Yeah, we have one question left for you,
Indeed.
Henrik. And you may choose yourself because we prepared 3 questions from previous guests or people we like from within the Lightning space. You can choose from Alex Gladstein. No, well, he's from the Human Rights Foundation, also from the Oslo Freedom Forum.
Maybe he can
obviously.
give grant with HRF.
Yeah, that will be nice. Or we have Arel Edelsnoor. He's from Primaire Bitcoin. Or Dea Reskita, and she's from Indonesian Bitcoin Conference. Which one will it be?
Alex Gladson.
Hi,
All right.
Okay.
Alex.
hi. My name is Alex Gladstein from the Human Rights Foundation. My question is: in 2050, do you think it'll be possible for everyone in the world, all the billions of people, to self-custody their own Bitcoin?
Oof. Difficult question.
2050. Looking in the
2050,
future.
that's far into the future. No. And I don't think it's necessary either. So I think you need the escape ability. But yeah, I think not everybody needs it.
Well, okay, so the people who are just less tech savvy, they will always keep their Bitcoin, or at least the Bitcoin they're using for making daily payments, custodial. In your opinion?
No. So it's less about that. I think it becomes easier and easier, and in the end, extremely easy to self custody. You got to remember that any usage of internet, long while back, it was extremely difficult, and now people don't even think about it. But I think it's more about who needs it. If like decentralization has a huge cost, it isn't free, right? It's expensive in different ways. So although there will be higher capacity, what is the expense to have it work that way? So I hope everybody can use it that way, but I don't think they need or have to and will.
Yeah. Fair point.
Freedom of choice, and perhaps not necessary then. Yeah.
Connetti il mondo.
Well, thanks again, Henrik. And I'm really jealous at the place you're at now. I mean, I have some fear of heights, but I think that office will suit me well also. No, just kidding.
There's floor to ceiling windows here, so but they're thick.
Well, that makes it even harder for me, you know. Hey, where can people follow you, man?
Yeah, so we just switched our Twitter handle to Torq LN. And just decided that now, actually, Torq LN. But Scaling Lightning is on at Scaling LN. Yeah, so you can follow that there. Also want to point out that Scaling Lightning is completely separate from Torq, nothing to do with the company. It's a complete open source project. And I'll be speaking about that also on Adopting Bitcoin and TabConf now, September.
Great.
Cool.
Well,
nice. We'll check it out.
Thanks again. And thanks, of course, for listening to everybody else. And thanks to all members participating again in the Satoshi Radio Rings of Fire. And of course, thanks to everyone helping to connect the world with us. If you like our content, then please support us in our mission. Visit our website, connecttheworld.live, where you can also donate and subscribe, like, and share our content on your favorite platform. So we need you to complete our mission, connect the world. So keep those nodes running, sats flowing, and rings burning. And see you all next week on this same Lightning channel. Namaste, Henrik.
See you, Henrik.